Well, good afternoon. It's Johnson Sanchez here in Mexico. Like always, we're going to be articulating a lot of the issues that we're going to be putting into the shoes. Metaphorically, we're talking about real issues. Now that we're getting into a warlike activity and we're going to the situations that, like I said, these administrations are getting into terrorism. And the fact that we knew that these cheats, murderers, homicidal maniacs, and obviously the inconventionality of the situations, because we're talking about strategical standpoints, which we're talking about political hostage. Not only because we knew the situations that they have lost, Mexico have lost a lot of the spectrum, and this is why they're divided. We knew the situation that has conducted a lot of the demoralizations because we have the evidentiary support that has shown a lot of the issues, factors. And like I said, there are circumstances that are going to be impaired heavily. There are a lot of good people, but we knew the circumstances is getting to a war activity. So we're talking about implementations that we're going to be seeing more regularly, and we're talking about implementations that needed to be, like I said, amended because we needed to create a situation that stabilize or restabilize an entire constitutional plane. This is why we were talking about a lot of the circumstances because we were talking about issues with this administrations that have deviated a lot of the humanitarian, civil, constitutional endeavors. And this is why the situation that implemented, because at the end of the day, we've seen how people are reacting now. They're starting to literally lose it. And we're talking about situations that implemented a lot of the factors because we're talking about issues that have been created into demoralizations with the entire federal government, meaning that the entire government, all the bureaus, sectors, agencies, and the fact that we knew that circumstances, a lot of the issues with the Hispanic agents creating these demoralizations. And obviously, there's a standoff with the issues. Like I said, espionage is highly illegal, knowing that there's a world power, meaning they were conducting political hostages. And we're talking about a situation that has created the demeaning actions by the premise that they were conducted. Now that we knew the situation, that being a world power, the significance of the issues that we were trying to constitute and articulate were issues that they were creating in this negative ambience. We knew the situation that conducted a lot of the terrorist association, and because these infiltrations of terroristical interference created those issues that we knew demeaned a lot of the factors. Not only because they kept using Joe Biden's name even after the presidency, but because we knew there were circumstances that demean a lot of the actions that were conducted. We are knowing that I'm a world power. We knew a situation that needed to structuralize a lot of the issues that are getting into the war line. We're not talking about Mexican, Jewish, African. We're not talking about nationalities. We're talking about human interaction. We're talking about humanity, and we're talking about implementations in which the segregational means were conducted by the factors alone. This is why the situations that also incriminated the entire agencies, because we knew that the bureaus were embezzling and unstrategically using those factors by the issues that they were conducting. Again, we're talking about disintegrations by the measurable means, and because we knew that those circumstances were still a creative, regressive action in which we knew that the circumstances were implementation of actions that we were trying to amend. This is why the issues that were created, because now we have the not only evidentiary support once again, and like I said, the frailty of certain economical systems do not allow those certain actions to take place in uncertainties which we knew that they were already created. We're not talking about sexuality, we're not talking about implementations of nationality, we're not talking about ethnicity, but we're talking about implementation of the actions that were created by these factors of terroristic means. Once again, we are talking about situations that we were creating those factors alone. This is why they were creating a situation that demonstrated a lot of the issues. And like I said, we're not talking about nationalities, we're talking about human expectations. Now we're starting to hear a war line, and we're starting to hit the situations where their interventions are needed again. And obviously, because we knew situations that were conducted with a lot of constitutional obligations. We've seen a lot of implementations that were conducted, and how the spectrums were going to be one of the issues, because we knew the circumstances where we needed to create. And now the factors that were being articulated, because we needed to create an actual lineage that conducted through the factors of each implementation that constitute the changes, meaning the Secretary of Defense, the Pentagon, the CIA, and many other bureaus that knew the situation that conducted. And because we knew those bureaus with reputation and obviously respect had the issues, that knew the circumstances and the behavioral aspect of this counterterrorism we were trying to amend. Now that we knew the statute of limitations fully surpassed a lot of the factors, because we already knew how the federal bureaus were conducting not only recruitments, and I kept saying it, they were recruiting terrorists, training terrorists, weaponizing terrorists, they were funding terrorists, and they were conducting this terroristic organization which implemented a lot of their behavior. Not only we have the conduct, but because we have the implementation that has conducted a lot of the issues, and because we were articulating a lot of the factors with evidentiary support. And like I said, the factors that they were recruiting terrorists, weaponizing terrorists, training terrorists, funding terrorists, and creating a terroristic organization is what is the counterattack that we are trying to. Now that we knew that the weaponization of the issues, because we knew the factors that they were created, being a world power conducted a lot of the issues that we were trying to articulate. It's no longer about a simple person, like, or a situation. It's about creating a standpoint where we knew respectability was not out of the question. The factors that they were using, terroristical means, and the issues also conducted their own representations. This is why the issues or articulation was based solely upon the factors that was created, because we knew that the war line was already trespassed, meaning they crossed the line the moment they have weaponized these terrorists. And the fact that they were recruiting terrorists, weaponizing terrorists, training terrorists, funding terrorists, and creating this terroristic organization, where we knew who we needed to target. This is why the situation implemented, because we knew the factors were thorough and not unarticulated, spontaneous, or on intellect. This is why the situation created the factors, because we knew that a lot of the issues with the freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, has always been a conduct that we've seen with, obviously, the issues that came from the federal government. As we're talking, we know the situations with Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, which I'm very grateful for them because we knew a situation that created a lot of the factors. Because a lot of the companies, journalism, and we're talking about production companies, knew the situations that conducted not only thorough investigations, but because we knew the investigations were not in defamation. We knew the situation that implanted a lot of the actions because we were talking about intellectual means and obviously the intellectual properties and the factors that was created by not only thorough actions. Respectability is not out of the questions. The fact that I'm highly respectable for the fact that I strategically knew the situation that was going to be implanted, and the fact that we're talking about administrations failing in the issues by taking political hostages and using this strategic means, which we knew the counterattack was going to be the demeaning failure in freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and freedom of speech. Because this political the hostages that they were creating not only was a situation that was created by the standpoints. We are talking about it. There's a lot of situations that they have created with the knowledge of the counterterrorism that they have created and offered a lot of the situations that we knew that this counterattack was an illustration of political hostage that they have created with the illustrations of murder. This is why the implementations are created because we knew that everything that was done, not only because they were using names that we knew that they were trying to capitalize on, and because we knew the situation that went directly by political parties that were conducting these terroristical attacks. Once again, we are talking about a situation that, and I want to reiterate over and over again, because they were training terrorists, weaponizing terrorists, recruiting terrorists, funding terrorists, and creating a terrorist organization. And this is why they are in a lot of fucking trouble. Because now that they are hitting that war line, they can be prosecuted for terrorism and for the actions that they were vandalizing and using these strategic moves, actions, and tactics to create a disturbance in foreign affairs and obviously in situations that created a disturbance in the international realm. We already knew the situation that implemented the political aspect, but because we knew the situation was articulated with investigation, and now that we knew the situation that implemented a lot of the circumstances, because we already knew that the, pros- the prospect that we're actually trying to create and the situation that we're trying to change. And at the end of the day, the factors that they were created because these political hostages that they have inducted, because they were using not only images and image and the factors and the misuse of the situation when we knew the factors were completely tyrannical.